This is a Bulldog Radio podcast.
The Ferris State Bulldogs have upset the nation's #2 ranked team. Wide open. Taylor is going to take this one to the house. Touchdown Bulldogs.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Most Valuable Sports Podcast. Joe Nagy, Brandon Ward joining you here. If you're in the college circuit, hey, happy spring break, y'all. We've made it. I know Joe's out of here after we're done recording, right?
We did it. Yep. Well, tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Got to beat that snowstorm coming up.
Yeah, there is a snowstorm heading up. So if you have spring break plans,
safe travels.
Yeah, literally. It's about to get a little messy here in the mitten, but great show on deck for you. We got a whole slate of postseason athletics happening this weekend. Joe, basketball advances to the weekend GLIAC semifinals, as well as potentially the championship game. The Mason Cup begins this weekend as well. Got a whole slew of debates as well. Me and Joe get back to our roots. And we're talking Detroit sports stadiums as well as teams that can win a chip. It got a little ugly on air. Of course, you know me and Joe's ugly. It's not the same.
So we're trying to keep it as civil as possible, but punches weren't thrown.
Yeah, but there were punches thrown. I did hit a chair, and it was not in Joe's direction necessarily, or I'm not obligated to say that on air, but it got heated. So don't have a player or coach interview for you today, unfortunately. They're all on spring break, and we wanted to give them the break as well because we all need a break too. So we'll get right into the regular show here. Now we go.
We're going to hop right into the Ferris State Sports Report. Going to go into some in-depth stuff going over the weekend that's coming up now for a lot of Ferris State athletic teams. And once we're done with that, we're going to hop into our little bit of a debate topic about maybe some bright futures in the way for Michigan sports. So we'll see about that. But Brandon, let's go to ice hockey, I think, first. That's going to be the perfect one.
Yeah, ice hockey. So Mason Cup is now underway. Quarterfinal round. So Ferris drawing the 6th seed will take on the 3-seeded Falcons of Bowling Green, as alluded to earlier, playing in Bowling Green, of course, as Joe mentioned. It's going to be certainly a tough matchup, I think, really on paper. You saw that these two teams really had a hard-fought battle just earlier on in February, not too long ago when they were at Bowling Green. It was a fortunate 5-point road trip that we got. It felt like a 6-point road trip for how that momentum was just huge for us going forward into the Bemidji State series. And then it kind of fell out of the way down the stretch. But other than that, kind of got the rough stuff out of the way, which is good. Obviously, we're in a good situation right now of being able to kind of wipe that hole clean, 0-0 going into postseason. Records don't matter. It's who plays the best out of those 3 days. So I think this is going to be a crucial series when you look especially at the teams in the team comparisons between these two teams. There's certainly a difference between how Bowling Green plays as opposed to how we play. I mean, defensively, we're not as stout as Bowling Green necessarily, as we've given up the most goals in the CCHA this year. But we're necessarily I wouldn't call us a completely aggressive offensive team, but we can get a little streaky. We can get hot. Bowling Green plays with a lot of fundamentals, and they like to use the runs as well. But they're a team that also can give up some goals, and they're pretty when it comes to really the record overall in conference play. I mean, you can tell that they're pretty much not necessarily a completely average team for being around 500, but they're a team that can be above the radar and below the radar. And right now they're playing a little bit above the radar, really going into that last week's series. And then Northern Michigan blew them out of the building. So now they're coming off of just as a disappointing weekend as we were. So, I mean, this is going to be a completely hungry, completely all the other adjectives that you can make of all these guys on the ice going up for Bowling Green and Ferris State are going to be so hungry to try to score goals. And that's going to make defensively, I think there's going to be a lot of aggression when it comes to how that teams are going to push the pace into the defensive zone. And I think the defenses are going to be the tell of the tale, especially in the first period, that can really decide the game coming up in this series.
Yeah, they are, Bowling Green is 1-6-2 in their last, 9? So they're on a pretty terrible streak, I guess you could say, which is not the best for them, but it's going to be pretty solid for us. I mean, especially for us to be able to go in and be able to upset them like we did last time, Brandon. But it's going to, I mean, it could also mean that they're going to be able to flip the switch real quick and be able to use this postseason and kind of this extended time off a little bit to be able to get ready. I mean, it's a 3-game series, so it's going to be a little bit different of an approach for both of these teams when it comes to game plans. But I mean, I think you're still going to see some really hard-nosed hockey. I think we just really got to come in and play solid the first part of the first period. I mean, the first 10 minutes or first 5 minutes of the first period, I feel like are going to be the most important of each game, because we've seen it when we get down early and we have to play as the underdog, and we have to play with kind of our feet are like we're backpedaling our back against the wall, because there's a sense of urgency that I feel like we try to force way too many things. So if we can hold it down and be able to play really solidly and play so that way we hold on to the puck, make smart decisions, we're not rushed, or we're not, trying to feel like we have to do way too much in a little bit of span of time. That's going to be the big thing. And I think Bowling Green too, they haven't been putting up the most goals. They only have 1, 2, 3. Each loss that they've had, they've only had about 2 goals in each one, except for their most recent win against Michigan Tech, where they scored 5. And that's really the same thing with us, because we're at, a 5-game skid right now, and our highest goals have been 3 against the second game against Northern Michigan. But when you look at it, we've been playing pretty solid. And I think if we just play to the best of our abilities to the point where we're just really consistently battling, I think we're going to be doing all right.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be really interesting, I think, to see how really the offense is going to respond after kind of going dry a little bit the last couple of games. And I think Bowling Green's kind of the same way. So it's going to be interesting. I think Brad Merrick as well as Jason Branshaw are two I'm looking out for. Really, when you look at Brad Merrick, he had that power play goal in their most recent game. He's been definitely upticking his play after a little bit of a slump going on points-wise over the last couple of weeks. But I think Jason Branshaw is one of the most hottest players in the CCHA not too long ago, and he's really kind of went a little cold since then. So I think that him and that front line are probably going to be due for a big day against Bowling Green like they did back in early February. So puck drops for that game is currently, I believe, to be announced, but I believe it's going to be 7 o'clock on Friday, and as well, I think it's going to be 6:07 on Saturday. So
7:07 on Saturday for us, and then
it is 7:07,
and then we're 5:07 on Sunday.
Okay,
interestingly enough, but. You want to hear who else is playing on the CCHA,
yes,
the matchups. All right, so each one is going to be the same thing, basically. Fridays are 7:07. Saturday is 6:07, except for us. And then Sunday, it's a split between 5:07 and 6:07. The only team that's playing at 6:07 is Bemidji State and Northern Michigan. Other teams playing, Lake Superior is taking its trip over to Mankato to play the Mavericks of Minnesota State. St. Thomas is going to Houghton to play Michigan Tech. And then Bemidji State is going to Marquette to play Northern. What a run that Northern had to be able to go from 6th to 4th in the span of 2 games. I mean, they came in clutch and really played hot at the right time.
Yeah, they really did. So they'll be a team to watch, certainly moving forward in the Mason Cup playoffs, with hopefully the Bulldogs right there with them. So
we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, GLIAC tournament preview for second, third, and final rounds, and then a quick little debate about Detroit stadiums. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss it.
Anyway, moving over now, GLIAC tournament time, quarterfinal wins for women's and men's. We went over the early Thursday games, or I should say the Wednesday games earlier on in the show, which if you did miss, by the way, you can check it out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as the full show that we air also outside of just the radio portion, so that you can stay tuned for that and subscribe. But when you look at these two teams, I mean, obviously the women already made the shocking upset. They're obviously in the driver's seat. Now they're going to be taking on a tough Michigan Tech team. And as much as I was really kind of skeptical of, man, if we're going to take on this Michigan Tech team, looking kind of like the last couple weeks ago, I mean, after that win really on Wednesday, like I'm feeling pretty confident. I mean, last time we played this team, we were able to get a victory at home. So it's definitely hard to play up in Houghton, and we learned that. But I mean, we beat this team last time we played them. And I think that's going to be a huge confidence booster going especially into this upcoming weekend. I mean, you saw a really good game all the way around from a lot of different players. I mean, the diversity of scoring was huge. I mean, Kenzie Bowers had 20 points. She went off in that game. Mallory McCartney was great with 14. Chloe Idoni has kept her crazy run going with 27 points. So, I mean, you saw that dominant play from that starting crew, and they really took over. They really limited Alyssa Nelson. She only had 24 points, but compared to some of the numbers she had earlier this year, that's a good hold. And they especially limited every other player around them. So, I mean, huge for the program, as Joe likes to mention, for that upset. And now it's going to be against Michigan Tech. You're going to have to stop their 3-point shooting because they're going to want to let it fly. And they're certainly good at making those kind of shots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, especially when you travel, Michigan Tech, as we mentioned many a time on this podcast before, their fans are incredibly devoted, and it's going to be a tough one. But I still think we're going to be able to do pretty well. I mean, last year we were in the same spot. We didn't really have the best seeding going into the GLIAC tournament, but we were able to go all the way through and upset GV at their place and do the same thing to a lot of other teams. So this Michigan Tech team is going to be a great test. I feel like it's going to be pretty solid. Saginaw Valley too is also going to have a test against Grand Valley. But hey, a 5 and a 6 seed, who would have thought that there would have been 2 upsets there for the second round of GLIAC playoffs?
Hey, you never know, man. It's always about who plays the best in March, and that's what creates all the madness. So 4:30, the tip-off on Saturday. For the women's game, the men's will start actually earlier at 3 o'clock against Northern Michigan, virtue of a big comeback win against Purdue Northwest. And I think we're playing Northern again. And, of course, that was probably one of the craziest games of the year that we saw not too long ago at the end of January when that game went into overtime. But I think it's going to be limiting Max Jorglin. It's going to be really, I think, overall controlling the tempo, because Northern Michigan's a team, they're a flamethrower type team too. And we saw that especially in that first half. They lit 48 up in that first half to really get us on our heels. And then obviously that second half, we kind of came back and made that run there. Dylan Cole's also a very good player for them. So he's going to be one to watch. But I mean, you saw what Solomon Aragbu's been able to do. He's really been playing solo ball right now, and he's got the ball in his hands. I think there's still a lot of good opportunities for other guys to get involved. And I think they're going to look at that in the game plan in the film coming up for this weekend. So getting a lot of our shooters involved, I think, is going to be huge. I mean, we saw Ben Davidson had a big day as well. Ethan Erickson's been kind of a little bit on the skid as of late, but I think this could be a game he lights it up, especially that we're going to be at Wink. That's absolutely huge for our team shooting wise. We're one of the best teams in the nation when we're shooting at home. So I think that's going to be really a game of who's going to be able to bring the fire extinguisher when either team.
Michigan Tech upset Wisconsin Parkside?
Yeah. Did you not see the paper?
No.
Whoa, snap. Yeah, there's home basketball this weekend at Wink Arena. So you might be listening to this right now. You can still have time to scoot on over there after this is done airing.
Huge for the boys.
Yeah, so we're going to be in a driver's seat right now. And that's, I mean, thank you to Michigan Tech, because they were the 8 seed we wanted to upset from, and they got it.
Huge. That's sick.
Yeah.
I did not think that Michigan Tech had it in them.
I don't think anybody else did. Yeah.
Good for them.
I believe, is that the second or third year now we've had an 8 seed upset in the GLIAC tournament? We unfortunately were on the wrong end.
It might have been. I can try to look it up too. Real quick
I know we were on the wrong end of that last year, thanks to Davenport. But I think there's an opportunity for all these teams. I mean, we saw, I believe, another upset as well. Grand Valley beating, I believe, the 4 seed. I think that was Wayne. No, it wasn't Wayne State. But I think I'm really blanking on who the team was right now. But I'll think of it here in just a second. Grand Valley beat as the 4 seed. They were the 5 seed and they advanced, but I can't even remember. Lake State, thank you. Oh my gosh, that one slipped my mind. Yes. So we saw 2 upsets in the first round from both sides of the tournament, but I think that just shows you how crazy March can get. It's not about how you play in the regular season, it's how you play as of late that really helps you out.
Last 3 years,
it has been
8 seed.
Yes.
Saginaw Valley State upset Wayne State.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Back when Ashland was in the GLIAC.
Correct.
That's a while ago. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, maybe we did put ourselves in the right spot being the 2 seed.
Maybe. I think that's the right spot.
Undercover thinking, maybe? I don't know. But that game will be tipping off at 3 o'clock, as well as a potential championship bid on Sunday for both teams as well, to be announced on the times of those games. But here we are debating Michigan sports, as Joe mentioned, but more specifically, the best stadiums to watch Michigan sports at the pro level here. And Joe had a pick for a stadium that I was not expecting. You were
a little taken aback by it.
I was
surprised by it. I love Comerica Park.
Okay.
Comerica Park, I mean, it's an amusement park. You got the Ferris wheel, the carousel, you got entertainment, you got the game. You can also go to the batting cages. You got arguably one of the best food that you ever have. I mean, you got Tiger Tracks ice cream, great ballpark food. You're outside having a blast. 5, you can go anywhere in the stadium. You don't really, you can go lower concourse, upper concourse. You can go anywhere. There's no, once you have a ticket, you can go wild. And you can go for batting practice too. There's not a lot of other stadiums in the whole MLB, especially in everywhere else, that you can kind of go down and not really have to say anything about it. Because even with LCA, if you get there early and you say, hey, I want to go down by the glass for warm-ups, if you don't got a kid with you, they're saying, no way. I'm 19. I want to go buy the boards to go see the warm-ups, and the guy wouldn't let me go down. So you, Mr. Stewardess or whatever your name is, Mr. Usher, Get out of here. Comerica Park's the best. There's so many good things about it, and there's not really any downsides.
Yeah,
except the whales. The whales are getting taken away.
That was actually the worst thing that could happen to Comerica Park, was them taking
whales.
away the whales. Save the whales, doggone it. But my pick would not be Comerica Park, Joe, unfortunately. I'm going to go with LCA. It's the newest one that's built. Yeah, I know. You can give me slack for that. I'm a big Ford Field fan too, but I think LCA with the whole bowl design, that modern vibe, I think really fits the venue really well.
Mm-hmm. You can get a whole pizza for $25.
You can. I mean, for me being lactose intolerant, that doesn't help that much. But I mean, I think just the overall, the whole entertainment aspect. I mean, you have the upper level seating, you have the gondolas, which I've gotten to sit in. Those are really freaking
They're pretty
cool.
clean.
Yeah, just going and looking straight down. It looks very weird. And I would encourage anybody that sees those to take those over the upper decks, because the upper decks are really hard to see. But, and that's not necessarily saying that's a flaw.
I was just saying, I don't
in
think
the
there's a
design.
bad seat I don't really think there's a bad seat in the house.
Right. And that's why I like that, because I think there's other venues where you get bad seating. It really prohibits your experience. Little Caesars, however, they have everything encompassed. I mean, the on ice, on court entertainment, the whole sound system. I mean, it's a true experience. I love it.
The only reason I didn't say LCA is because it's the most expensive out of every one of them.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
They got to pay off everything.
I think it's worth it.
I mean, also, if you go to pro sporting event, like everything's going to be way upcharged, but I'm not going to pay $25 for a soggy cardboard pizza from a Little Caesars vendor. No shot.
What? Well, I don't either, but I think that the arena's cooler.
I mean, I don't know. I'd rather have Tiger Tracks ice cream and be outside.
Okay. But I like to be inside watching hockey, having a water and a bag of chips.
But that's the thing. You're so limited to what you can do at LCA.
Well, that's because of my allergies more than actually the venue itself.
There's like a museum on the concourse at Comerica Park. If you in between innings before, you can show up like 2 hours before game time and have so much stuff to do before. You don't even get bored.
So yeah, they have that LCA too.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you have got the statues around.
You have like a couple things like in the corner, I guess.
Yeah, you have like all the shops that you can go into. You can go into all the connected restaurants that are right there inside the arena.
At Comerica Park.
Inside of it?
There's not like, you can't like sit.
It's more like a food court. What?
I mean, it's a glorified food court is what LCA is.
I mean,
stop being not a fan of tradition.
What?
Reject modernity.
No,
reject it.
Then put your walls back and not have to, because you're now going modern with Comerica Park. Put your walls back.
No.
Okay, calm down.
That don't do nothing.
Oh, whatever.
We get new lights, and you think you can spin my argument back?
Hypocrisy.
On me.
You said it out of your own mouth.
Side note, though, I'm very excited for those lights because it's gonna add a new little feel to it. I feel like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
It's gonna be sick. Hopefully, we do like what the Phillies do, where they make the field all red or like all like blue or something.
Ooh, that would be kind of cool. Yeah. Either way, finishing out the show here. Got a couple minutes to wrap it up. Me and Joe are talking off air about what team from Detroit, from the Mitten, has the best chance of winning a pro sports championship. And I almost threw a chair. No, I'm not actually literally, but I thought about it because Joe believes that it is not the Lions as a team that could win the chip first.
Sleeper. It's a sleeper. But I think Detroit Red Wings have a solid chance.
Okay.
To be able to really make some noise in these next 2 years and possibly be in a chance to win the whole thing in about 3 years or so. Because if you look at it, we're about 2 games outside of the wild card spot. We've been playing pretty solidly. And now, especially with who we have developing and the guys that we're re-signing, the offseason is when Stevie Y is just going to go absolutely electric. And especially with the upcoming draft, he's going to go even more. And I think now, especially, I mean, if we don't even make the playoffs, our draft stock is going to go that much higher, especially with us trading away Tyler Bertuzzi. We're getting a 2024 first round, 2025 second round. It's going to be a situation where I think it's going to culminate to a really, really solid spot of success. Mo Sider's just going to get better. Raymond's just going to get better. I mean, you have Fabry, who's kind of middle of the road type deal, but he's been the guy who's been a sleeper to be able to get some goals. I mean, he's been able to have some production that not a lot of people have been able to have. I mean, you look at Dylan Larkin these past 10, 15 games when that contract extension was on the line. He was playing like prime Wayne Gretzky. He was scoring whenever he wanted to, and he was playing with a fire on him. If you get to playoff hockey, and if you get to playoff hockey now with the young guys that we have, that's just going to light a fire that's just going to go even crazier. I will say, with you bringing up the lines about how you think they're going to go far, I think it's going to be a 1-2 punch. It's going to go Red Wings and right after his Lions. That's the one thing. I was kind of teetering back and forth, but I think Red Wings have a chance, especially with how the the Atlantic Division that we're in. I think that we're going to be pretty solid and pretty straight up.
Okay, I can respect that, but I think the Lions, have a better chance, and there's the reason why. I think the road to opportunity for the Lions is much more wide open than it is for the Red Wings, because I think when you look at the teams that are really in the Red Wings' way to win a cup, which I don't think necessarily I'm counting them out as a team that could run from the bottom as an underdog. I think that Stevie Y and that crew and that coaching staff can do that. But I think what the issue for me is when you look at some of the teams, especially in the Atlantic, that make things so hard when we're talking NHL, is we're going to have to try to get above the Maple Leafs, the Lightning, the Bruins, which, we're within 4 games. We're within maybe 14 points. I'm just not quite sold as them being a top 3 seed. And I think that's the only way you can really build yourself, because I think when it comes down to it, I don't think it's necessarily that the best team wins that series in necessarily, especially in NHL hockey, because it varies so much compared to some other sports. But I think the road to get there is going to be so much harder. And you have a lot of these teams that have kind of solidified themselves in that perfect spot within that division that they're going to get out of. The Lions have an open door. They're going to have to try to compete against the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Vikings were a 3 seed last year. Come on. Like, this is an open division. The NFC, I should say, is a conference, excuse me. And I think that's going to bring a lot of great overall ability for the Lions to be able to reach the Super Bowl. And that's why I think they have a greater chance of winning them. Right now, they're the team everyone's betting on. So I'm going to pick them. But I think the Red Wings are a little bit behind, but I got to disagree with you, Joe. I think the Lions are going to be that team up there.
I think the one thing about the Lions, though, they have to draft well or do something to be able to get that secondary a little bit better. That's the main reason why, is because, we can put up 30 points or something like that. But the only thing is that they're going to be able to have to try to defend and stop teams from scoring 35, which a lot of the games last year was not really the case.
We're going to make that defense better, though.
I don't doubt we will, but that's going to be the main thing. And if we don't in the next 2 years, what are we going to do?
I guess when you look at it that way, I see that we're spending this whole offseason on defense. I think that's going to make that defense good.
That's what they should do. Will they? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I have faith, Joe. I don't know. You're on the Stevie Y plan. I'm on the Brad Holmes plan.
Hey, I have faith too. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that that's been a problem for a long time, and we haven't even been able to fix it.
But this is not the SOL. This is the new Detroit Lions.
Hey, I want to sip on the blue Kool-Aid too. Come on,
then. Join me.
I don't know, man. I might have to sip on the red Kool-Aid.
Okay. Well, we're going to have beef off air. We'll get you guys go. Thank you so much for tuning in to the MBSP.
I'm going to go have a nice Little Caesars pizza to celebrate.
Okay. You need to calm down. Be sure to subscribe. I'm going to go get in my Ford Escape and I'm going to drive out of here. Be sure that you subscribe at the MBSP. Follow us on social media and be staying tuned until next week's episode, 3 o'clock, same place, same time, for more banger content. So until next time.
Take care, everybody.